Hello everybody, it's Maria here from Pepperly Rose Paper Crafting. I am an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator in Sydney, Australia. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I'm going to do a video of a different kind. We're not doing any card making, but this is a video about embossing. In recent times, Stampin' Up, since the launch of the new catalogue, has changed vendors and partnerships with the manufacturers of their embossing folders and dies. Sizzix used to be the manufacturer for Stampin' Up's dies and embossing folders, and also provided the embossing die cutting machine, the Big Shot, for many years, and now that partnership has dissolved. Don't know the reason why, but it just has. So they've decided to change manufacturers, and so now there has been a change with certain things. So I'm going to go through this all with you as simply as possible so that there's no confusion. So I am going to bring the catalogue in view. So as you can see here, we have these orange embossing folders and we have these purple ones. The purple ones are the regular embossing folders. So we have the Woodland, which has been around for years, and this is the Sizzix one. So it says Sizzix up there, Big Shot. This embossing folder is going to be the same, but manufactured by somebody else, and the packaging will look like this, okay? So this is the brand new brick and mortar 3D embossing folder, but it will have this sort of imagery instead of that. So this is a carryover item for many years. These embossing folders, these purple ones, with whatever machine you may have, and including your Big Shot, you put them in the regular way, which is the Big Shot platform, one cutting pad. Imagine this has got a cardstock in it, and then another cutting pad as per normal, and you put that through the Big Shot. That remains the same for the purple ones. With regards to the orange ones, that is completely different now. What has happened is say for example, the brick and mortar embossing folder, this is a brand new one now, I'm going to take it out, is thicker than the other embossing folders, these ones. However, with the Sizzix, this is the corrugated one, which is current, but will be manufactured now by the other manufacturer. That has Sizzix on it, is different in that it is a lot thicker. So if you can see the difference here, I'm not sure if that comes up well, that is a lot thicker than this. So the way the Sizzix ones works is, so imagine it's got cardstock in there. You have your Big Shot platform, and because it's thick, you don't need a cutting pad. You just need the platform, your embossing folder that has the cardstock in it, your cutting plate, and you put it through. If we are to do the same with our 3D one, the new one here, the brick and mortar one, it is not thick enough. It is too thin and it will not go through. So what Stampin' Up has done is they've created a 3D embossing folder plate, which eliminates this plate, and then instead you put this one on. And it works pretty much the same. Big Shot platform, your 3D and your blue plate, run it through, and it's exactly the same. So that's the only difference. If you do not want to get the 3D embossing plate, which is only $17, you can also opt to use, with the new 3D folders, Sizzix have the emboss and transfer set. So what that is basically a thick silicone rubber mat and the impressions pad. And Stampin' Up was selling this last year. The only difference was they had a third silicone mat, which was a lot thinner, and they were sold in a packet of 3 last year, and then this year they have, because they've now stopped being in partners with Sizzix, that's now retired. But I bought the new version, I have this one. So if, for example, you happen to have this grey silicone matte from last year's embossing mat, what you can do is have the Big Shot platform, your 3D embossing folder with the cardstock in it, you put that on top, then you put just a regular cutting pad, and then you can run that through the Big Shot. So that is how you can use it if you wish, okay? So you can actually do it like this too. And then run it through, and then it will just, this moves. And I've shown you videos of me doing that for the 3D plate. So there's a couple of ways of doing things. So I think in this case, it is the Big Shot platform, the grey silicone mat, your embossing folder, and a cutting pad, regular cutting pad, and you run that through. This is for the Big Shot. These 3D embossing folders also work in other machines. I cannot say for certain if this will work in them. This is, I think, made for the Big Shot, but you can give it a try. I'm not 100% sure. I don't own any other die cutting machine other than the Sizzix Big Shot. So I have a Cuttlebug, but these are not wide. These are too wide, so I can't even use it in there. And this is because it's 6x6. That also doesn't work in my old Cuttlebug, so that's you know, irrelevant. So that's how you do your embossing folders. So I hope I didn't confuse you, and I hope I made it simple. With regards to using stencils, I did a video yesterday on embossing with stencils. And these are the basic pattern decorative masks from Stampin' Up. And I used these new folders with my video yesterday, and I had a lot of feedback, and it was very good. So I'm going to show you again, and I'm going to use a different pattern. And I'm going to use, where's the polka dot? So with these stencils, you get this pattern. You get this one, which was featured in yesterday's video. You get this damask looking one, and the polka dot. Today I am going to show you how to emboss with this stencil. It is really, really easy. So what you will need to emboss this with is your stencil, okay, on top of a cutting pad. So you've got Big Shot platform, regular cutting pad, your stencil, a piece of cardstock. I'm going to show you how to emboss with this. Okay. Your rubber silicone mat and the white impressions plate. That comes with the set. And then I'll grab the Big Shot and I'll crank it through. And as you can see, as it went through, the silicone mat moves. That can't be helped, that's how it's done. So I'm going to take this all off. And as you can see, that's the embossed side, and that is the debossed side. So you can emboss with your stencils if you have the emboss and transfer set from Sizzix, or if you have last year's Stampin' Up's embossing mat set, and you can do it that way. Now, if, for example, you want this to be coloured on the debossed side, I showed you in yesterday's video how to emboss this on the raised side. If you want to use the debossed side, what you'll need to do is just line up your your image, right, your cardstock there. Line it up well. Then I'm going to get some painter's tape, and just bear with me for 1 second. I'll just grab some painter's tape. Okay, so I've got some here and here. All right. So what you have to do is you have to run this through. So always make sure that your stencil's down the bottom, cardstock, rubber mat, and your white mat, and then run it through. It's the only way to do it. If you want to colour, like if for example you want to emboss a coloured image, I'll show you a coloured image first. I'll show you the debossed way to do it. So let's put the debossed way facing up. Put your stencil over the top and line up your image. So if you want to have like a letterpress look from your stencils, this is the way to do it. So line it up. Okay, that looks lined up to me. So I'm just going to put painter's tape on here and secure that. And then I'm going to colour on the debossed side. So I'll just grab my craft sheet. I do it this way. Alright, so I'm just going to grab one of my makeup brushes. You can also use, you know, a sponge, whatever you want. So this is to colour on the debossed side. You have to put it through the big shot first, otherwise it won't work. And then just go on it like that. Might have to re-ink my ink pads. So this is to colour on the debossed side, okay? It's the only way to do it. You have to run it through your big shot first. Then you line up your stencil to the image. And then you colour afterwards. And that's the only way to colour through the debossed side. So it gives you like a letterpress look. So let's just leave it at that for now. I'm going to carefully take that off. So the embossed side is underneath. I'll just clean that up. And I'll just make sure it's dry before I put my sheets of cardstock on there. And I'll just take that off. And now we have coloured on the debossed side. See, so that's on the debossed side. And it's hard to tell because it's not overly thick, but that's the embossed side with the raised, and that's the debossed side. So if you want to say, for example, colour on the embossed side, I'll show you it all again so you can see it. So just take this off. Just grab a piece of cardstock. Sorry, I forgot to bring the second piece. Okay, so we'll line up our piece of cardstock like so on our stencil. Then we add our painter's tape or something to secure it on. And then I'll bring back my craft sheet. What I'm going to do for the embossed side, so that's for the embossed side, we're going to colour it first. Oops, I made a mess on myself. I'll quickly wipe that off before I get it on everywhere. I don't want it to be. So I'm just going to colour it, just roughly, okay? And we can use these backgrounds. Just do it rough, okay? Then I'm going to take that off, clean this off. I'm going to dry that off. Sorry, it's housekeeping, but Just want to make sure when I use this again, I'm not going to contaminate my workspace. So because it's all secured on, you keep it on there. You bring up your big shot. Then you bring your, where is everything? Okay. We've got our big shot platform, a regular cutting plate. The stencil always is down first, then your cardstock, then you add your rubber, grey rubber silicone mat, okay, and then you add your white impressions pad. Then you run it through the big shot. Oh, that got caught. All right, and then, so take off everything. As you can see, that's the debossed version. And then we're going to take that off carefully from the stencil. I'll actually give my stencil a clean. There's nothing worse than having a dirty stencil. I'm going to give that a bit of a wipe with my microfiber cloth, so that when I next use it, I don't make a mess everywhere. All right, so where did I put it? Okay, that's the deboss side. And I've just lost the emboss side. Oh, here it is. And now, see, that's the debossed, and that is the emboss. This is the easier one to do. So there's a slight raise. You can actually feel it more than see it, but it looks beautiful. So I'm going to use this on a project somewhere. So just take it off carefully. Just take that off carefully. Okay. So that's the embossed version, and that is the debossed version. So if you notice, the difference is that you colour it first for the debossed side, and then you run it through the embossed side. For the debossed side, you have to run it through first, then you bring up your stencil, line up the images with your debossing, and then colour it through. There's no other way of doing it, unfortunately, and that's the only way to do more like a letterpress deboss side, is by doing that. If you want a deeper impression, I suppose you can add more shims, like extra cardstock, and really make that impression a lot deeper, and you can put the cardstock on top of it to make it deep, but I'm not going to demonstrate with that. But basically that's the embossed and that's the debossed. So they look very similar, but the effect's very different. So I hope you found this embossing video helpful. I hope I didn't confuse you in any way. If you have any questions, just don't hesitate to let me know, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions. But that's how you do the embossing with your new stencils or any other stencils you may have at home. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope this clears up any confusion you may have, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.